recording. So I'm Lauren Kelly. I'm the technical services consultant here at the Department of Libraries. Some of us have met before, some of us have not. If this is our first time meeting, thanks for coming. I'm really happy that you're here. Feel free to come on camera. I am going to ask that we do just a short little introduction. Just give us your name, your library location, and what ILS you use. That would be helpful for some context to what we discussed today. I am just going to go down the list of participants. So we have Allison Maynard first.
Hi, I'm Allison Maynard. I'm the director at Petty Library in Wilmington. I'm a OAS fan, first time joiner. I am currently visiting my sister who just had a baby. So I have my little ones playing the piano in the background. So forgive me, but we what else was I supposed to say? Well, ILS. We use Biblionics Apollo.
Thank you. Gail is next on the list. If you could just introduce yourself and let me share the agenda here.
All right, so I'm Gail, and I'm the director of Bradford Public Library in Bradford, Vermont, and we use Koha and with
Awesome.
the Vocal.
Great, thank you. Janet is next.
Hi, I'm Janet. I am the Adult Services Librarian at Rutland Free Library, and we use Koha. We're part of the Catamount Library Network.
Awesome, thanks. Jill T.
Hi, I'm Jill Toffrey, Director at Fletcher Memorial Library, and also a member of Catamount Library Network, and we use Koha.
Thank you. And Ruth?
Hi, I'm the Assistant Director at Lanphier Library in Hyde Park. We use Koha through Vocal.
Awesome, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Sarah Luttrell is next on my list.
Hi, yeah, it's Sarah Luttrell. I'm the Technical Services Librarian at the Brooks Memorial Library. I'm taking over for Leslie Markey. I'm working from home today, though, because of the snow. So see my little familiar pop in. And we use Koha, and we are part of the library.
Awesome. Next we have Sarah Moulton.
Hi, I'm actually a retired GIS specialist, but I have a degree in library science, and I'm interested in cataloging and keeping in touch with things, and so that's me.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
That's great. Sarah Partridge. And that's not actually your name.
That's right. I don't know how to change my name on Teams.
No worries.
I'm sorry. My name is Laura Federoff, and I work at Sarah Partridge in East Middlebury. We're a branch of Aylesbury where I'm on the cataloging committee there. I also work at the Platt Memorial and the Cornwall Free Public Library in Cornwall. Cornwall and Platt use ResourceMate all on their own, and Aylesbury and Sarah Partridge are on Koha.
Awesome, thank you. Next we have Tracy.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, it's Obremski. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I am the Technical Services Librarian here in Springfield. We're with the Catamount Library Network, and we use Koha as well.
Awesome, thank you. And Veronica.
Hi all, Veronica Golden, she, her pronouns. I'm the director of the Chelsea Public Library. I love all things cataloging. We use Koha, we are a member of Vocal, and I'm on the cataloging committee.
Awesome, thank you. And Wendy?
Hi, I'm head of circulation, cataloger and IT here at Bennington Free Library. We use Koha and part of the Catamount.
Awesome.
Great.
Thank you. So I think Michelle and Courtney just joined us. We were just doing some introductions. If you just state your name, where you are, your library, and like what ILS you're using, that would be great. Michelle?
Yeah, Michelle Willie. I work as an assistant librarian at Waterbury Public, and we use Koha, and I'm part of Catamount.
Awesome. Thank you. And Courtney, if you want to introduce yourself. You are muted. All right, perhaps not. Regardless, thanks everyone for joining today. I'm just as a note as we go along, I'm very open to changing things, hearing what might work best in terms of discussion and getting information out there. It's a work in progress, and today is the first roundtable that I am running, so very, very open to hearing what works and what doesn't work. So in any case, I have put kind of a agenda together, and I'm sharing that. Hopefully you can see that fine. We just went through some introductions, and I thought I would mention that we wrapped cataloging month, basically. This is our last event that our department had planned. And I think the month went really well. We had various webinars on different topics pertaining to cataloging. They are all up on Niche Academy, and they're also up on the webinar recordings page on the Vermont Department of Libraries website. So those are available to watch whenever. Please share them with whoever, or if you need any materials or any questions that spawn from any of that kind of stuff, shoot me an email. Oh, I don't have my email listed on here. Maybe I will put my email. It's just my name. Yeah. Okay. So as you can hear, I do have a cold today. So I don't want to spend too much time talking, but I'm also always looking for suggestions for future topics for webinars. I know classification is something that kind of comes up routinely on the listserv and in other places. Lots of discussions about genrefying. So that could be a potential webinar for the future. But I'm also always looking for more suggestions. So if you think of anything, let me know, bring it up. But for today, there were a couple of things that came up throughout the Cataloging Month webinars, and they're listed here in this document. And if anyone has anything really hot at the front of their mind that they want to bring up and discuss, feel free to. Or a couple of questions came up. One was about subject headings. One was about the series mark fields. One was about overall changes in cataloging rules from the AACR2 to RDA. And of course, I'm also always wondering about the roundtable itself, if there's a better time. And then uploading MARC records to OCLC is something that someone sent. So these are all topics that I've just mined thus far. If anyone wants to address anything that they see or have experienced or questions that they also have, basically the floor is open, and this is kind of a not the Lauren show today. And I also want this to be a good place where if you found a website that you really like, or a resource, or a piece of news, because cataloging news exists out there in the world, which is fantastic, and I love that. So if there's anything of that kind of nature that anyone ever wants to send in and say, hey guys, did you see that this happened? Please send those my way and we can share and talk about them here.
Well, I would like to start the conversation going. At the moment, I'm in the middle of taking a cataloguing course. I'm actually in the process of taking my MLS, and I have, for the first time, had my hands on the RDA toolkit. It is phenomenal. It is also very expensive because we looked at purchasing that at the library at one point, and it is horrendously expensive. So basically, the toolkit has all the rules for RDA. So the only way we're all going to actually learn what's happening with RDA is if we get our hands on the toolkit. Now, I can read it while I'm in class and try and glean as much as I can from it. But at the end of the class, I won't have access to it anymore. So is this the sort of thing that, I don't know, the whole state could have a single access point to the RDA toolkit?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Because, yeah, and I really hate that so many things are behind a paywall, especially a hefty paywall at that.
Yes.
I don't know about the stipulations for usernames for that, but I remember when I did my MLIS, we used the RDA toolkit as well, and that was really helpful. Yeah, I wonder if that could be a statewide resource. I'll have to look into that.
This is Gail, excuse me. What does RDA stand for? And I think the state should purchase that for us.
Resource description and access,
Cool.
I believe, is what that stands for.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah. Yep. It's the rules of what about an item should be represented in a MARC record, or rather, in a cataloging record in general. Yeah, I also think that it's going to be interesting the more we meet to see the different levels of cataloging exposure everyone has had. So there are no stupid questions, basically.
Can I say something else? It seems to me that if we understood what the rules were, if, like, put another plug for that, those kinds of tools, if we know what those rules are, we can understand what you guys are talking about, or what veteran, people that know how to catalog best we can refer to something.
Yeah.
We have nothing to refer to.
Yeah. It can be cataloging can be a little insular, right? Where there's common knowledge, but only once you've learned it.
Within Koha, when you're cataloging, there's the magic little question mark at the beginning of each field, and that does give you a lot of the rules, and they are RDA compliant, but it doesn't give you everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I think those question marks lead to the MARC 21 handbook, right? Yeah, which that's usually my go-to because I kind of came up in cataloging in Koha, which shows because I'm always reliant on the MARC 21 handbook. But yeah, the RDA toolkit lists things out differently.
So is the MARC 21, do we have access to that through the state?
That is just online. That is
okay.
Like open access. Yeah, it's really helpful. And I see that there's something in the chat here. Veronica has stated that if you are a vocal member, there is general cataloging manual, and that is on the Vocal VT Google site. So for those vocal members, And I don't know, whoops, let me stop presenting for a minute. I don't know if that kind of stuff, lots of information and videos, and it can be overwhelming. There's the Mark handbook link, which I always find helpful. So when it comes to the consortiums, I don't know how much conversation and like cross-pollination almost there is between the consortiums, and I don't know if there are, I'm sure there are pros and cons for that kind of stuff. But I'm hoping that in doing this roundtable, we can hear from the different consortiums and kind of compare what the different practices are. Wendy, you ran a workshop once.
Yeah,
Feel
it
free to
was
expand on that.
for both Vocal and Catamount, and we met up in Bennington, and we had a discussion, a workshop, maybe it was a round table, who knows. But we talked about the struggles and what we were doing to try and get over the problems that we're having, and we were all having very similar problems, as it turns out. Lots of duplicate records, inadequate records were two of the things that came up at that point.
Yep. And do you know when that was?
Several years ago.
Okay. Yep.
I can't remember.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I think the last time the state did a cataloging roundtable was either, I think it was in 2012. So I don't know if it was similar to that timeline, but it's been a little bit.
It's definitely been since 2014.
Okay.
So it's got probably about 16, I'll say, as a rough guess.
Yep. Awesome. Veronica, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, so as a member of the Vocal Cataloging Committee, we have a plan to send out a poll via email just to sort of gauge the level of interest for folks in Vocal for cataloging knowledge, everything from extremely basic, I have no idea what anything means, to I love Mark and RDA and can't get enough of it. But so the site I listed has tutorials, really basic stuff that you can access if you're a member. Lauren, obviously, like the state provides a cataloging 101, and so that might also be a good place to start if you're having these issues. Also, the cataloging committee in Vocal is always open to questions, and even if it's really specific.
Great, thank you. And just because I'm thinking of it, because Wendy brought up, duplicate records and maybe incomplete records. I only recently had learned that you can use Clover, which, all of our ILL librarians that's their realm. And as a cataloger in public libraries, I never really used Clover myself. But as a cataloger, you can use it to download records. And I think that is a great resource, especially for some of our Vermont-specific items and Library of Things as well. And it turns out that all libraries, even if you don't participate in ILL, even if you aren't on the courier or anything like that, there still is a login for your library. And April Shaw is super great, super helpful. She will get you your login information for your library, and you'll be able to download MARC records from there. And that's great. And, no cost. We love that. Laura, you put your hand up.
I did. I have a question actually about Clover. So Clover is sucking in all of the disparate ILSs throughout the state and is able to see. So that is our one
Yeah,
link.
more or less. Yeah.
It's the one link between all the libraries digitally that we have.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, I don't have a good sense of the number of libraries that it reaches.
But
But
it would bridge the gap between Catamount and Vocal
and Verso and
ResourceMate and Verso and
yes.
Koha. Though
Yep.
we at least can see everybody can see everybody else's records at that point, even if you're not part of their system. Okay. That's good to know.
Yeah. Yeah. And so there's a YouTube tutorial about like where exactly the button is once you've logged in. So if you don't know your library's login, send April a message and she'll get that to you.
Rock on. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, I only recently learned about that, but I think it'd be very useful, especially for Vermont items.
Going back to the discussion about not having RDA toolkit for everybody and not having consistent rule books, there is a big inconsistency among the quality of the records that are found on Clover, especially for the local items, as you mentioned.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that the inconsistency is going to be the struggle. Yeah, at the moment I don't have a great workaround for that other than using the resources that have been shared so far as to making those records better. Hopefully the state can offer enough consistent training that we can get to a better basic level for everybody, and then offering resources that can build your comfortability in editing the MARC records. That's kind of my aspirational hope. But I think with more resource sharing, we can get there. Because, yeah, there's a lot of inconsistencies. I mean, even within the same consortium, there's a lot of consistencies. And especially with the amount of turnover right now in the state of Vermont with our library situations. But, hopefully we can find a bit of balance. All right, I'm going to pull up my agenda again here. So is there anything that anyone wants to pop in about? We talked about RDA a little bit and access to knowing the rules, basically. Do we have any solo-ish librarians? I know you guys just listed kind of your roles at your libraries, but I'm wondering if there is any echo of this question that was brought up. What's the easiest way for a solo-ish librarian to apply subject headings? Veronica.
I don't mean to take up a lot of space here.
No, please take up a lot of space or else I will, and my voice sounds really weird, so.
So I am a solo librarian, and I also have this challenge because every library is doing their own thing. There are so many inconsistencies. So the fastest answer to this would be find a comparable record. See what books that already address this topic are listed as already in the catalog, and so we can all just try to be as consistent as possible. in terms of the outdated and or offensive subject headings, that is something that we're aware of. It's, again, really hard to do something about that because of all of the inconsistencies, and it would take probably a bywater change if we want to do something en masse. But it is definitely on our radar, and we definitely think it's important. We're just trying to figure out the maneuvers.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I always try and point catalogers to the power of comparing when it comes to, okay, what should this look like? What does something similar look like? Um, yeah, yeah, very difficult with getting language and subject headings right.
One place people can look if they're interested is the Homosaurus, which I haven't got a link for right here, but that has a lot of nice new headings in it. They're not necessarily Library of Congress subject headings, but they are pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah. Their link is pretty easy to remember, homosaurus.org. Yeah, interesting stuff and interesting history behind them. Starting in the Netherlands with a very specific LGBTQ plus collection at a university, and it's grown and grown, and now is this like international committee that meets and changes and comes up with proper language and sensitivities. Cool stuff. Do we want to talk about series at all? I know that that has been a struggle in the past with getting consistent series markings on records. Nope, no one wants to touch it. That's fair. That's very fair. Yeah.
As far as I understand the series, it really does come down to consistency. And if you call one book in the series the Harry Potter series, you have to call all books in that series the Harry Potter series. And that's what it comes down to. It's pure consistency.
Yep. Yeah, no getting around it, really. So does anyone have a one-stop shop that shows the changes between cataloging rules over time? I haven't come across anything like that, but that's something that'll be on my search list. I don't think I can make polls in Microsoft Teams. I bet I can. That would be something to look into. But I'm wondering if the last Tuesday of every month at this time, 10 to 11:30-ish, is that a good time for catalogers? I mean, obviously you guys are here. Laura, you put your hand up?
No, I was just trying to find the thumbs up. Yes,
Oh.
it works, because that's been a thing in some of these classes. So sorry.
Nope, that's fine. Yeah, I wanted it to be kind of consistent with the cataloging series, which seemed to have good turnout. So it seems like Tuesday mornings is good. Yes to Tuesday morning, says Janet. Awesome. Okay by me. Awesome. Cool. Thanks all.
Well, I have something that may be of interest to others. I can't say
Yeah.
that it's a one-stop shop, but it's a YouTube video from the RDA Toolkit, and it's titled, I can pop it in the chat, the link, but I think it's titled The Practical Implications of cataloging a book using the new RDA. So it sort of goes
Yeah.
bit by bit and kind of shows you some of the differences. Let me plop it in here. And it's certainly not perfect, but it may be helpful in learning some of the new terms or some of the things to look for that are different in different records.
That's awesome. I've been keeping a kind of master list of all of the resources that I've been using in classes and whatnot, and so I'm always looking to add to that, and so that seems like something, I mean, I haven't really looked at it yet, but that seems like something that would be fantastic. So, and I don't know, I don't think we'll all have access to the chat once we leave the room, but I'll add everything that, you know, kind of gets put in there into this agenda, and I'm always happy to send it out. But I was going to post it on the Tech Services website on the state site. So that'll be kind of the place where all of the content from the roundtable lives on the website.
And just to interject again, I will say
Yeah.
that although RDA Toolkit is obscenely expensive, my guess is that they won't let us do it for the whole state. I just remember having access to it when I was a student, and my professor was like, oh, you're only ever going to have access to this if you have a really, you know, good system. But there are a number of books. You know, it's not as efficient, it's not as easy to navigate, but, you know, books are our business in a way. And there are ones like making them, it's backwards, sorry, making the move to RDA and the Maxwell's Handbook for RDA. And there's a couple of them that, you know, if you're just feeling like you don't know where to start, they're maybe not helpful because they're sort of overwhelming and intimidating. And I think that's why so many catalogers don't like to ask questions, because it feels like you're dumb. But my mentor who trained me was like, no cataloger in the history of time has ever remembered all the rules for anything ever. So you shouldn't ever feel bad about looking things up or asking questions, because no one can remember all the rules. That's why we have all these giant books full of rules. But I think I'm just going to make a plug for more stupid questions and more of that. And just because if we don't make mistakes and we don't show our progress in learning, see, my cat agrees. But yeah, I think, and I'd like to open myself up to anybody who's using Koha. If you have questions, you don't want to ask a lot of people, I love to problem solve. So send them my way.
Yay, I love that. And I want to make a plug that the state has a library science collection, and it is for, you know, primarily librarians to check out that material, because these books can be really expensive, especially anything put out by ALA. But the state purchases almost all of them. So if there's a title that you see, it may be at the state, and you can check our Verso catalog. That stuff is up to date. And we're happy to lend stuff, you know, for a chunk of time for librarians to have that material in hand if that, you know, helps with your learning. The library science collection at the state is fantastic, and I don't think it gets used enough. I don't know if people know about it. So some of those books are on the shelf. So yeah, that's something to look into. Veronica put in the chat, I tell folks to start with MARC-focused learning. RDA is often automatically followed if you're copy cataloging. RDA can get pretty abstract unless you know the A to Z's of MARC. Yeah, I definitely agree with that too, Veronica, and that's why I tend to send out the MARC 21 handbook that's online, just because it's also pretty clear. Yeah, but I think we might even have that book that Sarah brought up, the Making the Move to RDA, at the state collection. But if there's ever anything that comes up, you can also request that the state buys it for our library science collection. I know that like Ryan Dowd's book was really popular and has been relevant. And I think the state got that. So we're happy to send things out for periods of time to help with professional development, especially cataloging. One question that had come up a little while ago was the idea of having a cataloging listserv. Would that be something? I know that we're all inundated all the time with emails, especially from the, the statewide lib staff listserv, but I mean, always good conversations happen there. So if that's something that I get feedback about, we could potentially set that up, and that could be a way to connect as well. But if not, that's okay too, since we're starting this up as well. There's chatting happening in the chat box, but nothing delivered yet. Rather not have another listserv. That is totally fine. Yep. Yeah. Possible to go and browse the library resource books or just searching online. Ruth, if you wanted to come look at the books that we have, you can totally come and browse in person in Barrie at the Vermont Historical Society building / Department of Libraries. Just make a I don't know exactly how you're supposed to make an appointment, but you could just send me an email and we could find out a time for you to come and I'd meet you and show you where they are. Yeah, totally welcome to come and look and browse the shelf or shelves. Yeah, that's totally doable. Send me an email.
And I'll say that I'm happy to share our little collection of cataloging books with anyone. I'm in Brattleboro, so I don't know, that's kind of pretty far south for a lot of y'all, but if anybody wants to, you're welcome to just send me an email and say, hey, I've got time on this day. And I have all sorts of books and I'm happy to loan them out to people as well. So just let me know.
That's awesome, Sarah. Are those are they cataloged or are they just in like
I
your...
believe they're in our system. They've got little call numbers on them. They're all
Cool.
From before my time, because I just started January 17th.
Oh, awesome. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. So yes, I've had a lot of interesting learning about the system in Koha, and I know the Catamount Library Network has a vast resource of these great documents where they point out, the rules for Koha or the kinds of things that we want to see in our good records. Yeah, that was been very helpful for someone new. So I'm eager to share the knowledge, and, the feeling. So yeah, and I just love talking about cataloging. I truly do. So I used to catalog for Smith College, so I'm not an expert by any means, because I don't think that exists expert catalogers. We're all giving it our best shot, but I love to talk about it. I love to be told I'm wrong, because I think mistakes are the best way to learn. So I'm never going to get it all right, and I encourage anyone who wants to come and get it wrong with me, and then we can get it right together.
I love it. Sarah, there's been a request for your email. If you could pop it in the chat, that would be great.
I can only see, I'm having trouble with the chat, but I will put I can't see what people are saying. I can only see what I myself have said. But
that's weird.
I'm using the web browser, so that could be why. I think that is my email.
It's sent. Awesome. Sarah@brookslibrary.org. Cool. Thank you. I love the enthusiasm and the willingness to share. That's the whole reason why I knew there were people like y'all in the state. We just
Well, I'm
gotta
from
get
Georgia, so
everyone
maybe,
together.
maybe that's why. I'm an Atlanta, Georgia girl. But yes, we've come to the north. I did want to ask if anybody. Nope, I'm rescinding my question.
Great. Okay, let's see. Where are we at? I don't think I've missed anything from the chat. It is 10:41. I've shared the tutorial out. I did receive a question about uploading MARC records to OCLC, which I've only started to do in the last month myself. Catamount was talking about potentially uploading records to OCLC. Does anyone have any experience doing that here? Yes, Sarah, you do.
I do. In Massachusetts, not that it's that different, but when I worked for Smith, we had to update holdings in OCLC every time we added something, and it is a special kind of terrifying to create a record that the world can look at and know exactly who made it. It's very nerve-wracking, but it also, you know, there's plenty of bad records on OCLC, but I have a slightly different interface now. When I worked for Smith, it was like the downloaded on your desktop version of OCLC, which has different functions as opposed to the web version. So I haven't had experience doing it that way, but it was quite simple to do it on the downloaded version. It's literally you just push F8 and it updates the holdings. And then there's another button, I think it's F2, and you remove your holdings. It's very easy to add it in and out. And creating the records directly on OCLC, there are systems to make that, but I have not uploaded it from Koha to OCLC at this time. And it seems like a large, rather daunting process, but interesting, because then once it's in OCLC, then the world can see things. You know, for example, I've been doing some original cataloging these past few weeks, mostly of local authors. And so, you know, self-published books, and that would be something that other people might not have access to, and that would contribute positively, as opposed to making a duplicate record of some kind. But it seems like a lot of work, so I'm a little nervous about it, but also game for it.
I sort of think the other thing that we have to remember is that this is work that's never happened before, I don't think, in any of our catalogues. And so it's how do you go from the point we're at now to a point where we can just do a single record at a time? Because we're sort of like starting from way behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Right, which for me is almost kind of like, well, is it worth it? You know, it certainly isn't. I know many veteran catalogers who don't believe in retrograde cataloging in any sense of the word. I'm a big believer in balance, and so I think in certain situations it's useful, in certain situations it's a nightmare. But you know, I would think just off the top of my head that it would be something like, moving forward, if you're doing original cataloging, it might be worth adding it to OCLC, but otherwise,
Yeah, that's my approach with material in the state collection. All the original stuff is now going into OCLC. I kind of like to think of Clover as a small statewide OCLC. That's the way I've been thinking about it in my brain. I think that covers most of what I was thinking about potentially discussing today. I also always want to make space for conundrums to be brought up and successes to be brought up as well. So if anyone has any conundrums or successes that they want to share, now is the time.
Hi. So we've been getting some different language books, like books for, picture books, particularly in Spanish. And we've also got some from Native American authors in their own languages, some of which have a lot of accent marks. And when you import a record, those accent marks don't come through necessarily. And I was really having a hard time trying to get those in correctly. And then I looked at Amazon, like for the title of a book, and that's got all the correct accent marks. And I just copy and paste that, and they, for some reason, the accent marks are brought in correctly. So that has saved me a lot of work and time. That's just one little success.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, yeah, I go to Goodreads a lot or Amazon to compare things, but yeah, the accent marks, and I've been cataloging in Verso for about a year now, and Verso does not play well with any kind of accents or special characters. And quite frankly, it's problematic. It's inaccurate. Um, so that, yeah, I feel for you there, but I'm glad that you have found a way that can be helpful to you. I'm going to put in the chat a good site that has symbol codes. Um, that has been really helpful to getting the right characters to show up. Although in Verso, once I hit save, it may not show up on the display. It may not show anything at all. So I might need to put a ticket into AutoGraphics about that. I should write that down.
I can say that also Googling things is an excellent way if you really run out of other options. But my biggest conundrum is, how do you actually have characters that aren't Romanized characters? That is my current conundrum.
Yeah, Wendy, I'm just going to jump in and say I'm right there with you. It's when there's non-Roman scripts. Yeah, there was a great gosh, I forget, it was maybe through School Library Journal. There was some cataloging, making cataloging more inclusive presentation. And this library out in California talked about all the work they had to do for their ILS in order to make it display non-Roman characters for this large batch of immigrant population they had coming in who wanted to read the resources. And I recently added a bunch of sort of obscure Japanese films to our collection that a patron had donated. And I was able to find records on OCLC that had the Japanese characters, and Koha is able to read them. But, I'm not sure that looked like Arabic. I'm not sure something like that is much harder to figure out. And it's very hard to tell if the record you're looking at is correct when you don't speak those languages. And I love to talk with you more about that, just because I feel like that's something that, as cataloging becomes more inclusive, that's something that we're all going to need to be able to figure out to get these resources for people who need them. But I do believe Koha has the capacity to display non-Roman scripts. We just have to figure out how to get them in there, or find the right record, I guess. And a note on the diacritics, my predecessor Leslie Markey created this great Word document just called diacritics, where she basically put all of any kind of interesting letter you might have, and it is a little tedious to copy paste and add it in, but it's right there, and you don't have to look on Google, and you have like she put it in like an alphabet. I'm not in my office right now, but I'll try and find it and send it to you, Lauren. It's a basic Word document, but it would be helpful for a lot of people, I think. And I will say, whoever mentioned their success, I've noticed that when I download records from OCLC and then add it on to Koha through, the stage, your imports, the diacritics don't translate. But if I download it through the Z3950, they do, and they're there perfectly. So it is baffling how that works sometimes. But look, you gotta love a diacritic.
Yeah, that would be a great resource to share out, Sarah. That would be great. Thanks.
Well, for the Catamount people, there's a whole page of the diacritics equivalents in a handbook that we have, and that for them can be found on Basecamp.
Awesome.
Koha itself has a diacritics keyboard. I would really have to do some digging to figure out where that is the last time I clicked on that. Because usually I just like copy and paste it from somewhere.
Yeah.
But there is the functionality in Koha. I just need to figure it out.
Yeah, I believe you have to be in the advanced cataloging to do that, if memory serves me right.
Cool. Nice. I feel like I'm learning things now.
Yeah, I did this morning too. I was just watching some of those. Sometimes they're not very helpful because sometimes they're a little dated. The Bywater Solutions Koha tutorials that they make every so often. But I liked it because they showed me things I already knew, but the way their brains thought to find the information was new to me, and I learned a new way to navigate it. And I don't know, I think it's always useful to sort of return to those sorts of things to be like, oh, right, you can find a diacritic in the Koha with the little drop down thingy. It's amazing how we can forget. You learn a shortcut, you learn how to do a thing this way, and then you forget that there's another way to do it.
Great. Thanks, everyone. I think that for future meetings, we will schedule an hour block of time because I think that's all we're going to need. Cool. My plan is to kind of finalize some meeting notes, and this was recorded. So I'll put both kind of the agenda and notes and this recording onto the technical services page on the VT website. And the website is currently going under a bit of revision, about a bit of shifting around. It looks different than it did a couple months ago. So that's a work in progress at the moment, but we're streamlining the Vermont Department of Libraries website. So over the next couple of months, it'll continue to shift and look different and hopefully be a little bit more straightforward. So I just wanted to note that. But the technical services page at the moment is like under services for libraries, and then under the learn more about cataloging. That's kind of the hub, yeah, where this will all live. If no one has anything else that they would like to bring up, I'm happy to close up the meeting and get to work on finalizing minutes and notes and pushing stuff out there. Up to you guys. Sounds good. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for bringing some nice insights and sharing and talking and being on camera and all that fun stuff. Hopefully, we can maybe do some hybrid meetings in the future, but we'll discuss that. All right, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks for hosting, Lauren.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for coming.
Sure.